What is up, TTV? I'm Eric Dave's friend, as always, here to review Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 3, Oathbreaker. And I know I sound like a broken record, but I have to start at the wall because a lot of big things happened at the wall. So, Jon Snow is alive. He's just sitting there in shock that he's alive. Davos is looking at him like he's literally seen a ghost. He can't believe it worked. Melisandre comes in. She can't believe it worked. Melisandre asks Jon, she says to Jon, when you were dead, what did you see? And Jon says, I saw nothing, absolutely nothing. So then Melisandre goes, the Lord brought you back for a reason. And Davos just is like, he gets rid of her. He wants to talk to Jon alone. Listen. Jon goes, I did what I thought was right, and I got murdered for it. I don't know what to do now. And Davos is like, just do what you were doing. Continue to do it. So Jon goes to the courtyard of Castle Black, and the wildlings and Night's Watch are all literally looking at him like they've seen some kind of god, because no one's ever seen anyone come back to life. And Tormund Giantsbane, hugs him and says, I know you're not really a god because I saw your penis when you were dead, and it was small. It was a funny scene. But then Jon sees his friend Ed, and he hugs Ed, and Ed is just so happy to see Jon is alive. And so later in the episode, they have the traitors who killed Jon strung up, ready to be hanged, and Jon goes to talk to them, and he says, "Do you have any last words?" So one of them says, "Please tell my wife I died fighting the wildlings." And then he gets to Alistair Thorne, and Thorne dies like a man. He stands by his convictions, and he says, "Look, I had a choice to betray the Lord Commander or betray the Night's Watch and everything I believed in. And even knowing where I ended up right now, I hope I'd still make the same choice." And Jon goes, "Well, I'm sure you would." So then Jon gets to Ollie, and Ollie was Jon Stewart, and Jon's kind of hesitant at first to even look at him, but then he looks at Ollie, and Ollie's looking at Jon with such contempt and hatred. And so Jon goes, he cuts the string, the four of them are hung, and they're dead, and then Jon gives his crawl to Ed and says, "You have command of Castle Black. My watch has ended," because obviously since he died, he feels he's no more allegiance to the Night's Watch anymore. And Jon's obviously going to be out and about, and obviously I think Davos and Melisandre are going to go with Jon, so I'm really curious to see what happens with all that. That was pretty cool stuff. So next, we're going to get to Bran. So Bran's in a warg flashback, and we see this tower, and we know it's the Tower of Joy. And we see young Ned Stark, who's with Holland Reed, who's Mira Reed and was Jojen Reed's father, and they're greeted at the bottom of the tower by Sir Arthur Dwayne, who's Kingsguard to the Mad King, and another of the Mad King's Kingsguard. And Sir Arthur is known as like the greatest fighter who ever lived. And Ned goes, "Where is my sister? The Mad King's dead. Rhaegar Targaryen is dead." And Sir Arthur says, "Ned, I was told to stand guard here. It's very important." So a fight breaks out, and we see Sir Arthur's skills, and he really seemingly takes everyone out. He uses two swords, and it's just down to him and Ned. And then Bran goes, I don't understand how my father could have beat him. And the three-eyed raven goes, "How do you know that he did beat him?" And Bran goes, "I've heard the story 1,000 times. It's legendary how my father beat this great warrior." But as we see what really happened, Ned is outmatched, and he's right about to be killed, but Holland Reed, who's still alive, stabs Sir Arthur right in the back, and then Ned finishes him off, and it's quite a shock to Bran to see that's how it really went down. Then we hear a girl screaming, and we kind of know, those of us that know the R plus L equals J theory, what's going on, and I was waiting to see the reveal of it, but they cut it off. But one interesting thing, though, was that Bran yells to his father, and Ned, it looks like, hears him. It was kind of interesting that he might have heard him. And then Bran and the Three-Eyed Raven wake up from warg mode, and Bran basically says, "Look, I don't want to be like you. I don't want to be stuck and become a tree for the rest of my life." And Three-Eyed Raven says to him, "You're not going to be here forever. You're just going to be here as long as you need to be to learn everything you need to know." So we know Bran is going to be obviously not there forever, which is good. But I hope, hopefully in the upcoming episodes we see the rest of that flashback. just to see the confirmation of it, because we all know it. Most of us know it, but we want to see it confirmed. So hopefully we'll see that down the line. So next I'll get to Arya, and her scene this week I liked. She's trading with the Wraith, and at first she's getting her butt kicked, and the Wraith keeps asking her questions and about her family. Who are you? And she tells, I had a mother, I had a sister, I had 3 brothers, I had a half brother, but the most interesting part of it is when she gets to the Hound and she reveals that in the end she took the Hound off her kill list, and she really didn't want to kill him. Now, this is just a personal theory. I could be completely wrong. The show is off the books. I believe the Hound is still alive, and I believe we will see him again. I don't know how, I don't know when, but maybe I'm wrong, but we'll find out. But so later we see Jaka Hargar, and he asks Arya again, who are you? She says no one. So he makes her drink the death drink that can kill you, but it gives her eyes back, which I'm so happy she can see again. So, there was definitely progression with that storyline, which I'm happy about. Hopefully it progresses even further in the coming weeks, and she gets out of the House of Black and White and gets back out there and starts kicking some ass. So next I'll get to King's Landing. So we see Qyburn. He's talking to Varys's little birds, as he called them, which are his spies, and basically says to them, look, work for me now, I'll give you treats and candy and all that. And then Cersei and Jaime come in with Sir Gregor, who's the Mountain Reanimated, and there's a small council meeting going on, and Cersei and Jaime's uncle is now handed a king. He's in charge of it, and Lady Orlania is there, who's Marjorie and Loris's grandmother. Grandmaster Pycelle's there, but they're all like, we don't want you, Cersei and Jaime, to sit with us. We don't want you at this meeting. And finally, Cersei and Jaime's uncle goes, you know what, you could sit here, but we're going to all leave. So they all leave. Grandmaster Pycelle is just scared to death of the Mountain Reanimated. That was a funny scene. But it kind of shows the true power behind the Lannisters really was Tywin. He really was the power, and without him, they're not as powerful, even though, their child is the king, but it's not the same. Tywin was the true power behind it all. And he is, of course, dead. But next we get to King Tommen, and he goes to see the High Sparrow, and he acts very kingly and tough. And he's like, you put my mother through all this. She just wants to see her daughter's final resting place. And High Sparrow goes, she can't until she's atoned for all her sins. And he really starts to get into Tommen's head, and the High Sparrow really would make kind of like a great politician who makes you believe what he says, and he believes what he's saying. And I hope that Tommen doesn't fall under his influence and become like him, because that would be pretty bad. Because I really don't like the High Sparrow and the Faith Militant. I want them to be wiped out. But the High Sparrow is very good at what he does, and he's good with his words, and he's good at convincing people of things. So, we'll see what happens, with that. But that's the deal with King's Landing. So next I'll get to Meereen, and in Meereen, Varys is talking to someone who's been setting up the Unsullied and the Second Sons to be killed by the Sons of the Harpy, and he says to this woman, I know you have a son, I'll send you on a ship, you can have a better life, but you have to tell me who's in charge of the Sons of the Harpy, who's doing this. So he gets his information, takes it to Tyrion, who's talking to Grey Worm, and Daenerys' handmaiden, I forget how you say her name, and he says to her, look, it's being sponsored by the Masters in Yonkai and Volantis, and that's who's sponsoring the Sons of Harpy. And Tyrion's like, we'll deal with it. Maybe we'll fight, but we'll deal with this. So then I'll get to Daenerys. Daenerys is now taken to where the wives of dead Carls go. It has a name. I'll butcher it if I say it. And they strip her of her clothes, take off her jewelry. She says, look, I'm Daenerys Stormborn, Breaker of Change, and all these other titles. And the head lady there says, I once thought I was something great, and I was young once, and, this is where you end up. And she's like, hopefully, Daenerys, you'll end up here, because there's obviously a worse place you can go. I kind of, to me, it kind of feels like I'm watching season one a little bit all over again. Like I was speaking about Arya last week, I really hope that Daenerys is not stuck in this place and in this situation all season, because it's season six and her story really needs to be moving along, and I don't want to see her stuck there. My personal theory and opinion is Drogon will show up, the Dothraki will crap themselves, and she'll get out of it. But hopefully, I hope it doesn't take too long for her to get out of this situation and back, maybe to Marine, back to where Tyrion is, because I want to see them together. Because the scene they had together last season was really good, so I want to see that pairing once again happen. But that's a story with that, and then lastly, I'll get to Winterfell. So Ramsay's sitting there, and someone from the House of Umbers walks in. The Umbers are Stark's bannermen. They've always been loyal to the Starks, and he says to Ramsay, "We don't want to be loyal to the Starks anymore. Snow has let the wildlings into Castle Black, and we want to be loyal to you." So Ramsay goes, "Okay, kneel, pledge your service to me." And the Umber guy goes, "No, I'm not going to do that. But I have a gift for you." So he brings in two people. And Ramsay says, "I hope one's a girl," and one is a girl, and it's Osha, who we haven't seen since season 3. And the other person is Rickon Stark, who we also haven't seen since season 3. They were both sent off by Bran to the Umbers for protection in season 3, and Rickon's grown. And Ramsay goes, "How do I know that's really Rickon Stark?" And the Umber guy brings in presumably Shaggy Dog's head, which was kind of sad to see. So it's cool to see Rickon and Orsha again, but Rickon's in trouble. Looks like he's definitely in some trouble being with Ramsay. Ramsay, of course, is going to use this to his full advantage in every way he can. So that's really the story. It was a little more of a setup episode to set things up in the future. It was fine, but that's my thoughts on it. Let me know what you think. Subscribe to DTV, and I will see you guys next week.